This is the home of the common Joe and the common Sally in the know, even more so than all those media talking heads. Let's go ahead and pull y'all something up real quick. Something that really surprised me the other day when I was doing an article or actually doing a podcast on conference realignment, basically saying that Texas A&M, as you can see here, says College Football Insider claims that Texas A&M to the Big Ten expansion becomes real-time possibility as conference realignments hits Aggies coast. What do y'all think about that? Nobody's ever thought about the SEC possibly losing teams. But if they did lose a team, it would be to the Big Ten. And it would be because Texas A&M has a real issue with the whole Texas and Oklahoma additions. Not really Oklahoma as much as Texas. They and you can't really blame them. There was a deal that was made with Texas A&M. If they joined the SEC, their idea to join the SEC was to get the hell away from the Longhorns. And what do? 10 years later, they invite the Longhorns into the conference. Normally, I'm not on Texas A&M side because they're pretty goofy, cultist-like. They got some weird traditions. Let's just leave it at that. But it's really got my interest piqued. It would not surprise me if Texas A&M did indeed leave the SEC to go to the Big Ten. That way, they would have their own label. They would make them stand out, and they would be in a conference that could compete head-to-head with the SEC. And the Big Ten is wanting to go completely nationwide as they are now concentrating on trying to get into some southern markets like the state of Texas and the state of Florida. Would be a big coup for the Big Ten going forward in their competition with the SEC. What do y'all think about that? Drop your comments on here. Got 9 people up in here already. Starting this thing off with some conference realignment talk. What do y'all think? Texas A&M to the Big Ten? And a lot of people would be mad at them, but I wouldn't be mad at them. Like I said, I'm an SEC guy, but the SEC absolutely told them that they would not add Texas. What the SEC could have done is they could have added Oklahoma and maybe Kansas for basketball. I've always said that all along. I feel like the SEC just continues to add football powers upon football powers, and eventually somebody's got to lose. Somebody's going to lose their status as a football power because they're going to start losing because somebody's got to lose. Somebody's got to win. So I would have added Oklahoma and Kansas because of Kansas's basketball prowess, and they're a traditional blue blood in basketball. So why not broaden our horizons a little bit and bring Kansas in instead of Texas? And I know why. Texas has got a shitload more money than Kansas, but they made the promise to Texas A&M that they weren't going to do that, and they did it. Yeah, Thunder OU, I can see what you're saying there. Thunder OU says Texas A&M runs the Big Ten. That proves they're afraid of OU and Texas. I don't know if they're so much afraid of Oklahoma. I think they really have no issue with Oklahoma joining. I think it's more Texas, like I said earlier. They just have a huge issue with Texas, just like Nebraska did, just like Colorado did. Numerous teams have had an issue with Texas. So Texas is, probably the reason the Southwest Conference had to merge with the Big Eight in the first place. Texas is a very cancerous type program, in my opinion, sometimes. We got some good fans that are Texas fans up in here. Michael Parks is one of them. But I just hate it for them because the administration at Texas and the city of Austin itself dabble in some liberally spastic stuff that I'm not really fond of, if you know what I mean. All right. Jeff Payton has now popped up in here. He has his badge. He's deputized. He says Texas A&M would get squashed in the Big Ten. Really? I don't know, man. I would see them getting more squashed in the SEC because they already get a little squashed anyway. They're sort of a middle-of-the-road team in the SEC. I think going up against those burly football powers of Indiana and Purdue and Northwestern and Illinois would actually suit Texas A&M pretty good. I think Texas A&M could definitely become the third best team in that conference without a doubt. In my opinion, Texas A&M could become a better program than Penn State or Wisconsin. But that's just my opinion. A&M wasn't a good team. Lance Flore says A&M weren't a good team when they were in the Big 12 and have had flash-in-the-pan success in the SEC. That is true, Lance. Texas A&M's always been a sort of a middling program that has those one breakout year every once in a while. They win 10 or 11 games. I'm not even sure they've ever won 12 regular season games at Texas A&M. That's something that maybe Jeff Payton could look up because he's our statistician. Oh, Jeffy boy, he's pretty good at that kind of stuff. They would be middle of the pack, says Jeff Payton. Well, you might be right, but I don't know, man. I mean, to me, let me ask you this. If Wisconsin and Penn State come to the SEC, where would they be? I think they'd be slightly middle of the road, too. Probably a little bit lower, probably around the 8th or 9th best in the SEC, Wisconsin and Penn State, if they were in the SEC. No higher than 6th or 7th, in my opinion, if Penn State and Wisconsin were in the SEC. And that's my point. I think Texas A&M is better than those two programs, and will probably be the third best team in the Big Ten, in my opinion. Look up what, says Jeff Payton. I was talking about, I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think that Texas A&M's ever had a 12 or 13 win season. Or have they? Have they ever won 12 or 13 games in a regular season? I'm not sure about that. Now now we've talked about Texas A&M. Once again, tucking their tail and running from the Texas Longhorns. They just stay, man. I understand why they're doing it, because the SEC did renege on their word that they weren't going to add Texas. And Texas has a substantial lead on Texas A&M from their many victories back in the day, back in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. But it's not even close. I think it's like, and I don't have that in front of me, but I think Texas leads that series, sort of like Oklahoma does Oklahoma State in a way. Except it's not quite that bad. It's not quite as bad as the joke that's called Bedlam. Yeah, they won the last game, but over a period of 100 years, Oklahoma State's been a charity case for Oklahoma. Oklahoma's held them up and just brought them along. And now we see now that Oklahoma has just got tired of that shit. But that's another topic for another day. But Texas, I think, is up on them like 80 to 27 or something. Might be like 71. So I think it's 73, actually. I think it's like 73 to 27. Texas leads that series. Thunder OU Center says, would Texas A&M lose in recruiting if they go to the Big Ten? That is a good point. Nebraska went to the Big Ten, and they haven't been the same. So Texas needs to take that into account. What's odd about this is, Trev Alberts, who is the athletic director at Nebraska, or was, he's now the former athletic director at Nebraska. He left Nebraska for Texas A&M. So wouldn't that be a hoot that Trev Alberts leaves a Big Ten school to go to the SEC and ends up back in the Big Ten with Texas A&M? And maybe Trev Alberts has something to do with that. I don't know. What do y'all think about that? Jeff Payton says the best record for the Aggies football was 1992 with a 12-1 record. Seriously? I know they ever won 12 games in a season. So, more than likely, they've never won 13 games in a season. Today's Four Horsemen shoutouts go to Zach Hamner, Dakota Green, Tim Gillespie, and J.D. Wilmoth are saddled up and ready to go and help us with today's college football invasion. And if you want to get your badge and get deputized and get a random Four Horsemen shoutout, as well as possibly be the comment of the day, All you got to do is hit that join button next to the subscribe button. It's not but $2.99 a month. That's 75 cents a week. That's just a half a bottle of water for the outlaw. Also, you can do the big four, and they're free. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel.